Monday, September 29th, I want to see 50 different news alerts on my phone show up saying the Rockies have relieved General Manager Bill Schmidt of his duties. They are releasing Chris Bryant, and Dick Monfort or Walker Monfort is going to be giving a press conference Monday afternoon. You've had all season to prepare for those decisions. We knew the Rockies were the worst team in the history of baseball on pace for in the first quarter of this year. But the reality is still the same. You're still sitting here with 2 weeks of the season left with 41 wins. You're not going to win more than 45 games, most likely. The Rockies are still going to be one of the worst teams to ever play baseball in the history of our beautiful sport. You've had all season to stew in that. The Rockies should have decisions already made so that Monday, the 29th, shows up and we get 50 alerts on our phones saying the Rockies have made XXX decisions. And now we know what we're going to go, and we're going to spend the rest of the offseason figuring all of that out so we're ready for 2026. Well, it's Monday the 29th, and it's about noon Mountain Time. Still haven't heard anything from the Colorado Rockies. Welcome to the offseason here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. It was a season to remember, or maybe a season to forget for the Colorado Rockies. Welcome in to our first edition of the DNVR Rockies off-season podcast. Welcome, everyone. We are live from the Toyota Lounge. It's the DNVR Rockies show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365. You can place a bet for $5, get $150 back in bonus bets. And Spencer, we are just a couple hours into the official offseason, or at least the first weekday of the offseason, and I'm already pissed off. I'm already pissed off because I'm looking around Major League Baseball, and other teams are doing things. I'm seeing news alerts coming out from the Giants. Thank you, Felix. Already making moves. I'm looking around seeing that the Pirates extended their manager, and yet here we are at 12:02 p.m. Mountain Time, and the Colorado Rockies have not announced any changes coming to the organization. Welcome in. Happy offseason, buddy.
Thank you. We've made it.
We've made it.
You know, the most disgusting part of this entire season is through all the crash outs we had, probably in the near thousands. 143 losses, about 10 a game. I'd say 9 to 10 a game. That adds up. Almost 1,000 crash outs. All the heartbreak, all of the worst ERA in baseball, recent baseball history as starters. All the, ironic that you're wearing a Colorado Rake shirt. They in fact do not rake.
They do not
rake. And I'm still like. The postseason baseball will kind of give me some life. Obviously, football's right around. We got Broncos tonight, basketball, hockey coming up. But I'm kind of sad we don't get to watch the Rockies anymore. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
What are we doing
What
here?
is wrong with me? What is my problem? And
you have a problem.
I have a massive problem. But it will be nice to have a little break from the Rockies and from anything going wrong for them. Mm-hmm. Although this offseason, if it stays quiet, no news is bad news in this offseason. And so I fear that it still could go violently wrong, even if nothing happens, which is exactly what we don't want.
Yeah, I fear that if we get through today and we haven't heard any news whatsoever, that is signaling bad things moving forward. Because, again, and I just said it, 2 weeks ago, that clip from 2 weeks ago, that I started the show with was from September 19th. And I made the point that the Rockies ownership has had all season to figure this out. You've had all season to think through how you're going to approach this offseason. And here we are. It's the first day of the offseason. Other teams are already making moves. So do you want to be the the last ones to the party? If you're trying to figure out what your managerial situation is going to look like, what your front office situation is going to look like, you got to start making decisions now, or honestly yesterday, but can't go back in time. So you make decisions now. And if the Rockies get through today and nothing has been announced about Bill Schmidt, anyone in the development, system for the Rockies organizationally, I don't expect to see anything from a managerial standpoint, Warren Schaefer and company, but at least from a front office standpoint, I will be absolutely shocked. And we might have to get a countdown going for, like doing something crazy every single day the Rockies don't have and haven't made an organizational change.
We should have a countdown, like our Kyle Freeland K counter over here somewhere. Maybe it's broken now. We should have a countdown of days since the worst Rocky season in history that they haven't made a change.
Yeah.
And I'll spin some positivity here. I'm glad we haven't heard any news about Warren Schaefer yet.
Sure.
Because not that I kind of do want him to stay around, but to me, if the news comes out about Warren Schaefer being let go or released, that to me means that the front office is staying and they've made it down to that level where they're like, okay, this is concrete. This is going to be what we change. So the no news right now it's not good news, but it's better news. I think the longer we wait of, like the Giants are a perfect example of this, right? They fire Bob Melvin. Maybe the Rockies are waiting. I'll spin this positive again. Maybe the Rockies are waiting to see which manager, because I do believe, the Bud Black situation obviously turned bad, but the Rockies, just his entire organization, turned bad. I do believe if they go away from Warren Schaefer, I think the only way to right this ship is go get a Bob Melvin. Go get somebody that's actually managed a team before, had success, and get a guy that knows how to invigorate the clubhouse, but knows what he's doing, knows the right moves to make, or as many right moves to make as he can.
A trusted voice.
Exactly. And so going to get one of those guys, maybe they're waiting to see their pick of the litter, but still, if there is a hire of a firing and then, or a let go of Warren Schaefer and then a hiring of a new manager, that to me signals the front office is staying the same, which is absolutely what I do not want. Yeah. Warren Schaefer should be a byproduct of only a new front office coming in and letting him go, not being let go by the same awful management and team building that this front office has put together. And the Giants, like I said, perfect example of that. They let Bob Melvin go because they believe Buster Posey and the group above is doing what they can to make a winning team, and Melvin is the reason they're not winning games.
Yeah, Berge, perfect point. The manager isn't the problem here. It's the front office. We all know that. So yes, I like your point that if we see Schaefer news before we see front office news, that's a very bad sign. So I want to talk more about Bob Melvin later in the show because that once his name popped up as a free agent, so to speak, some eyeballs started turning towards the Rockies. But before we kind of dive into anything like that, later in the show, we got to go through some of all of the crazy history that we have. We have to put this season to rest because this was a miserable. Despite you being an absolute sicko and loving the pain of watching Rockies baseball, which, I love watching baseball in general, so I'm with you, but this has been a miserable baseball season. It's been the hardest baseball season to swallow that I can think of, and I've jumped around, living in different cities growing up. You've been a Rockies fan your entire life. Like, it's brutal, fun. Man. I feel like there's almost a sadness to it, just because of how heavy the season was. Like, yes, you feel kind of free. Like, hey, we can look towards the future, whatever that future is, even if it's not great. It can't be as bad as it was this year, right? Like, there's something freeing to that, but also there's something I don't even really know how to explain it, how to describe it. There's something wild about being a part of history, even if it's crazy bad history.
Dude, we hung a banner this year.
We did hang a banner.
That,
yes, we did.
If the Rockies were sitting here today talking about a 70 and 92 baseball team, we're probably not in a worse spot, but I don't know. I actually enjoyed is not the right word, but it's the word I'm going to use for. I enjoyed this season from a standpoint of it was so insane that it was actually kind of fun. And
there was
we got
zero
some
expectations.
Yeah, and we got some fun moments out of it. We got, Friday rooftop clubs were fun. We had a 3-game winning streak, the last 3 Friday rooftop clubs. Like, that's unbelievable. But no, I think it was just so insane that you had to take it in from a perspective of like, yeah, like Luke said, it's a car wreck. It was a car wreck where you cannot look away.
Yeah.
Because you know that, you know, it'd be fun. We'll do some recaps of the season, and I think I'll do a deep dive on this. But just the blueprint of the Rockies going down in between 3 and 5 runs in the first 4 innings and being no hit for the first 3 or 4 innings, or pretty close to no hit, was the script for not joking 120 plus games this year. And you knew that was coming, but it became so obvious that was coming that, like, if the Rockies were away and they scored a run in the top of the first, it's like, oh my God, what is this? This is unbelievable. And you were so beaten down and so just used to knowing exactly what was going to happen every single game that the positives actually became that much more exciting versus expecting the positives and then getting let down by the negatives. Like, we were let down by moments this year, but not a single game that they lost this year going into it, I thought they were going to win. Like, I was never like, the Rockies might win this, or they might win this game, but I was never like, the Rockies should win this game. I don't think in 162 games this year, we never felt like they should win a baseball game. And they won 43.
Dude, you're taking such a positive spin on this, man.
They exceeded expectations 43 times.
Yeah, we did get numb to it. That's a great point, because it did feel like there was this numbness to it where you showed up every night, you turn on the TV, and you don't know what you're going to see. You have no idea what you're going to get. It could be a 21-0 blowout in which your manager gets fired the next day, or it could be a 18-17 just historic game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, you just have no idea. But like Spencer said, you weren't expecting anything. So sure, if you want to spin it a certain way, yeah, no expectations is nice for your mental health sometimes. But also, it's just, this has been such a grind of a season. So we want to talk about the crazy history that this team has made, because this team has made some insane history. And I want to literally just go through a list of some of the craziest stats. We'll do that later in the show. We'll talk about our most embarrassing moments of 2025. There were a handful. They were definitely a handful.
This list is so long.
It is so long. I don't think I've ever seen a rundown this lengthy that I've put together in my life. Usually it's just a couple bullet points, and that's our talking points. This is like an essay.
This is like your teacher told you to write a 500-word, 600-word essay on the topic of the 2025 Colorado Rockies. That's incredible.
We do have to also talk about a potential free agent free agent's name that got
and you're not going to shut me down.
I am going to shut you down just a little bit. Pete Alonso's name came up as he announced he's going into free agency, so we'll talk a little about him as we go. But before we hit this next break, I want to just, like I said, put this season to rest, so to speak. And in doing that, we kind of want to hold a moment of silence here, and we'll do this by playing a video that we put together. If you follow us on Twitter, you probably already saw this, but this is just a compilation of some of the craziest moments that we saw from this year from the Colorado Rockies. So without further ado, let's fire this up, Dion.
Yeah.
Oh man, gives me goosebumps just watching that. You know, to see the highs and lows, almost all lows, maybe just one high. It gets you fired up for baseball in 2026.
We need to wipe the slate clean, man. We need a clean slate. We need a 0-0 record.
Zero run differential.
That'll be a great start. Maybe win a game in the first series next year. Get us really pumped up for opening day, which I will inevitably be to the moon excited about again, as I am every single year. That's one of my favorite days of the entire year. That's hilarious. Burge's comment. There are only 6 players on the team charter back to Denver. Everyone wanted to go their own separate ways. Yeah,
fair.
I don't blame him. There was a hilarious comment in the Discord. I don't think I'm going to say it. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
So it was about the team playing. Somebody goes, has the team plane landed yet? And somebody commented and said, I hope the team plane never lands.
they're just circling. They're just circling around Denver for
I
eternity.
Literally was like hands on my knees laughing about that.
You never know what you're going to see in the DNVR diehard Discord. Yeah, it's been a long season. After the break, we talk about the crazy historic stats. We go through this list, and like I said, we put this to rest. We gotta. It's almost like a therapy. Like when you go to therapy, like they tell you to like talk about the past, the pain, the trauma of what you've seen in the past. Let's talk about our pain here for just a few more minutes. We'll hit our first break after the break. The crazy stats and history that the Rockies made in 2025. Well, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Raising Cane's, because if you are heading out on the road for a last minute summer road trip, although is it still summer officially? Or are we getting into fall yet? I think it's still officially summer.
I think fall is September 21st.
Oh, it is. Okay, so we are in fall. So let's just say fall road trip, which is still a thing. I know people are going back to work, but it's a great time of year. This is honestly the best time of year to get outside, get up in the mountains, even if you're not going that far out. Go look at the leaves, just enjoy the crisp air. It is beautiful. And you gotta check out our friends over at Raising Cane's, because there is no better road trip food than Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's, first of all, has tons of locations all across the U.S., but they have the best food when it comes to getting out, getting on the road. You can get that hand-battered chicken fingers. You got their cane sauce. You got their Texas toast. I mean, you cannot go wrong. Anytime I'm getting out on the road, I'm checking my phone, seeing if there's a Raising Cane's in the direction in which I'm heading. I know my wife, she's a big fan of their fries, their little crinkle cut fries. Like I said, you just can't go wrong. So check out our friends over at Raising Cane's, and also if you're going out to the game tonight, you can pick up some Raising Cane's for game day. So enjoy those big plays, big flavors. It's how Raising Cane's does game day. Rally your team and make your next tailgate a touchdown. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Also got to give some love to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. And we're talking about the end of an era. I'm a little sad that we don't get to do any more Bet365 anti-Rockies parlay. Although betting on the postseason is always a good time, because crazy baseball happens in the postseason. And right now, if you use that code DNVR365 when you sign up with Bet365, you can choose between either a bet and get offer or a first bet safety net offer. But also, I've mentioned this before, and it goes without saying, MLB has this really cool thing, or Bet365, I should say, has this really cool thing for baseball fans called the MLB early payout offer. If your team goes up by 5 runs, you get an instant payout, and that's always a good time, especially, like I said, when you're watching playoff baseball. You never know what happens in the postseason. So use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. See why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Buckle up. You ready for this? The Rockies.
I'm ready.
The Rockies
I'm ready.
Have had some crazy stats this year. You have to start, if you're talking about the history that the Rockies have made, with their run differential. The Rockies finished with, I believe, by final count, a negative 424 run differential, which was actually a little bit disappointing. They were sitting at about minus 420, which, Colorado fans were feeling pretty good about. But I believe the Rockies ended up with a minus 424 run differential. They had 1,007 runs scored against. That's second only to the 1999 club, which, as you guys know, was, third year in existence? Second or third year?
Sixth year.
93
was the first Rocky.
What was the first year at Coors Field?
95.
95. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking of. So 99 was the last time that any team scored more runs against the Rockies, and that was 1,028. The Rockies had a team batting average of 238, which is actually funny because you and I had talked about this. When you look at the Rockies roster, yes, you have a couple outliers like the Blaine Crims and that kind of thing that had like the 190 batting average, but the Rockies batting average as a whole, individually, I should say, you'd look at like Jordan Beck and Tyler Freeman and, Hunter Goodman, and you're sitting there like 270, 280 batting averages and stuff. You're looking at that, you're like, hey, that's not that bad. I mean, the Reds, you just sent me that tweet that was saying the Reds got it, one of the first teams to get in the postseason without a single hitter hitting over 250.
Or 270.
Or 270?
Yeah, 270. Nobody with 25 home runs. Like,
crazy.
Insane. And the Rockies sitting at 238 are right in between the Minnesota Twins and the Baltimore Orioles at 23rd in MLB.
Okay, so that's not horrible.
No, which is not as bad as you would think it is. But, like, look at the Cleveland Guardians, 29th. In team batting average. They're hitting 226, and they made the playoffs and came back from 15 and a half games down and won their division.
Insane.
That's unbelievable.
The Rockies had 1,497 strikeouts for our batters, Rockies hitters, this season, fourth most in franchise history. The 2024 team had 1,607 strikeouts. So
allowing Michael Toglia to not play a lot of games.
And Ryan McMahon.
yeah, getting rid of Ryan McMahon and Michael Toglia saved the Rockies from setting a franchise record in that category.
Yep. So the Rockies were actually an improvement on strikeouts this year. Team OPS, 681, the lowest in franchise history, eclipsing the 2024 team's 704 OPS. And yeah, 681 OPS is bad. That is very bad. 246 runs allowed by Rockies pitchers. The pitching stats are the ones that gets me. I know offense was really bad, but pitching, God, some of these pitching stats are insane.
You know what's kind of crazy to me about this entire this thing is that these are not, like, there's some, the run differential being the biggest key, winning and losing games is the biggest, but looking through these, even these pitching stats, second lowest, third lowest, like, how are these not the worst?
Yep.
It's been worse than this. In certain aspects of the Rockies is kind of insane to believe.
Yeah, and look, every season has weird outlier stats that, like last year, the Rockies, leading Major League Baseball in double plays. This year, they were up there in triples. Like every season has weird stats. And so, yeah, maybe you're a team that, I don't know, strikes out a lot. Like the Yankees, I haven't looked at the stats, but the Yankees probably strike out a good amount, but they hit an insane amount of home runs and they make up for the amount of times they strike out. And so you can say, hey, maybe our defense was really bad this year. Maybe this team, allowed this many stolen bases that was second worst in franchise history, but the other categories aren't as bad. And that's not the case for the Rockies.
The Yankees struck out the third most times in the MLB right behind the Rockies. And
okay,
number one was the Los Angeles Angels.
So they did strike out. Yeah, so the Yankees struck out more than the Rockies. Good for them, man. That's impressive. They added Ryan McMahon to their roster.
Yes,
so.
the Rockies got rid of that guy, and they added him. So the strikeout to Ryan McMahon ratio went way down for the Rockies and way up for the Yankees.
Yep. 1.587, the 2025 pitching staff give up a lot of hits and a lot of walks. But its whip is only the fourth worst in team history. Getting this from Patrick Saunders wrote this article where this was included yesterday. If you want to look through that, there's some more historic stats in there. The 1999 team had the highest of 1.705. 3.72, which was the runs scored per game. That's the fewest in club history. I know I was just talking about pitching, but averaging less than 4 runs per game is such boring baseball.
Dude, I know. And that's what I think really sucked about this year is if you would have told me the Rockies went 43 and 119, and it would have obviously been really rough. Like if you would have told us that in March, we would have been like, you're out of your fucking mind. And we would have known it would have been a rough season. Yeah. But the fact that they playing at Coors Field, like, yes, the Rockies are never going to be this juggernaut team that it looks like, the Blue Jays of this year are just scoring an insane amount of runs. Like, that'd be fun, but they're never going to be that. So if you take a look through a clear-headed lens of what the Rockies are, they're never going to be that. But there was so many uncompetitive, non-fun games at Coors Field. Now, we saw a few, but they were so few and far between that's what made this season even worse. Like, the games, like, you're not going to have a Pirates 18-17 walk-off every time you're at home, but there used to be, as a kid, I remember, you're down 5-0 in the third, which was pretty often my whole life. Mm-hmm. But you're like, oh, they can come back. And they did that once against the Pirates this year. Maybe, we had a few crazy comebacks. But that was so much more frequent back in the day. Even with a 50, 60, 70 win team, they would have these fun games at Coors Field. And we're not only bad, but we're bad and boring, which is absolutely the worst combo in sports.
Oh, 100%. Bad and boring is never good. 6.64, which was our starting pitching ERA, the worst by far in team history, franchise history. And just to put this into context, the 1999 team, which we had just talked about earlier, was a very bad team, posted a 6.19 ERA. Again, this is just a handful of years after the organization was even created. And they posted a 6.19 ERA. The Rockies starting pitching this year, 6.64. And I remember coming into this year, and this is where I think the pitching part frustrates me the most. Because I remember coming into this year, and yes, you never know what you're going to get when someone comes back from injury. But you and I were sitting here before the season started, and I actually remember going on a radio show before the season started and telling them the exact same thing. It felt like, hey, you actually have a real starting rotation again this year. You've got Antonio Senzatella coming back. You've got German Marquez coming back. You've got a couple young guys in Chase Dollander specifically who are ready to go. You have a bullpen that looks manageable, which actually the bullpen was decent this year. They had good moments, we'll say that. But it felt like, hey, the starting pitching will be okay. Maybe they won't be great. None of us expected a Cy Young season out of any of these guys, but they won't be terrible. And no, they were terrible. They were worse than we've ever seen.
You had one full-time starter with an ERA under 6, which is insane. Kyle Freeland, actually, 4.98 on the season. Not too bad.
Attaboy, Kyle.
This is just so funny. Okay, so you had 3 bullpen pitchers with actually respectable ERAs. Herget, circle of trust all year, great.
Attaboy.
Vodnik kind of effed us in San Francisco, whatever, 3.02.
And Seattle.
Jaden Hill, surprisingly, 3.38 ERA in 28 appearances, not bad. Who led the Rockies in ERA at 0 this season? It's definitely not a pitcher.
Was it Nola?
No, it's Alan Trejo.
No, was it really?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of who's pitched for the Rockies outside of being a pitcher. It's Austin Nola and Kyle Farmer did.
7th on that list, right in between Juan Mejia and Jake Bird, we have none other than Jacob Stallings.
Oh my God.
With a 4.5 ERA.
What was Kyle Farmer's ERA? Because I know he got smacked around in that Blue Jay series, I think, or was it the Padres?
Austin Nola's ERA is 72. Luis Peralta, 9.47. Kyle Farmer, an even 9.
An even 9. All right. Attaboy, Kyle. Kyle, we're doing a little partial award show.
Right in front of Bradley Blaylock.
No chance. We're doing a little partial award show on Friday's show. And so we'll be giving out some season awards, and we might have to throw an award in there for best pitching outing of the season by a non-pitcher this year for the Rockies. So yeah, 6.64 starting pitcher ERA. 17 times the Colorado Rockies were shut out this season, and the old record for them being shut out was 2021. They got shut out 16 times. And the Rockies, how many times did we shut out someone else? Once, right? I think there was only one shutout.
No, I think there was 2.
Was there 2? Kyle Freeland in 1.
Kyle Freeland, that Friday night game against the Padres, and then there was another game it was middle of the season because we had not shut someone out for so long that we finally ended that streak. I think it was like in June. Okay. So I think they had 2 shutouts, and they didn't get no hit this year. Nobody got no hit.
Yeah, which is
not a single no hitter, which makes the fact that fucking guy from the Padres, I forget his name now. He like tore us up every series we played him. Ruined Kyle Freeland's no-hitter that he could have been the only... Rockies would that have been if Kyle Freeland had a no-hitter this year in a year where it was the only no-hitter of the entire season. And it's Kyle Freeland at Coors Field for a team with 40 wins in September. That would have been elite.
That would have been so
That would have been the
good.
best stat of all time.
Yeah, it would have made the season worth it, actually. It would have made all of the losses worth it, just that one thing. Yeah, that would have been incredible. Luke, that's a good call. We should... I actually love that. On Friday's show, we should go through our preseason predictions because I wrote them out, our preseason predictions, and just wallow in our pity.
I got 3 bets, massive ones. Well, not massive. One massive one that definitely didn't hit, and then I got 2 hilarious ones that I placed that also definitely did not hit.
Oh yeah, we'll do that on Friday, Luke. That's a good call there. The Rockies' 323 losses over the last 3 seasons is the most of any National League club outside of their first 3 years of existence. That stat came from our good friend Patrick Lyons, who's going to be jumping on our show at some point later in this offseason. And so that's not good. That goes beyond just this year. The Rockies scored 228 runs on the road. That's the fewest ever scored since the 1963 Mets and Houston, both in 1963, and both of those teams were in their second year of existence. So
plumbers and contractors and electricians out there playing.
You and me, basically, right out there. Yeah. And then the last one, at least that I know, and if you guys can think of any more, throw them in the chat because there's so many. There really is so many. This one isn't really a stat. It's more of just a Rockies storyline. The Rockies gave up Mike Trout's 400th home run, Cal Raleigh's 60th home run, and Willy Adames' 30th home run, which Willy Adames was the first Giant to hit 30 home runs since Barry Bonds, all within the last month of the season. That's just, that's as Rockies as it gets.
We were the good luck Chucks for the records of these teams. Like
the Rockies showed up into Seattle dressed like salmon and fishermen just to get sacrificed to Seattle to say, here, Cal Raleigh, we'll give you a couple nice home runs.
Yeah, there was no catch and release there. That was a catch and put right onto the fryer for dinner.
Didn't even, straight into the oil. Didn't even take a bat to the head of that poor little fish. Yeah, tough season. So let's move forward. Let's look towards the future and, hope that the Rockies can get 3 wins in the month of April to start the season next year.
Yeah, April's going to be a rough one, boys and girls.
So let's pause for our next break. After the break, new year, new first baseman. Is Pete Alonso heading to Colorado? We'll have that healthy debate coming up after this. Want to give some love to our friends right now at Toyota. Toyota has been a part of our DNA forever. It's been a part of my DNA for as long as I've been driving. I learned to drive in a Toyota. I still drive a Toyota. My entire family drives Toyotas. This entire set, both Spence and I, drive Toyotas. Toyota, there's nothing bad you can say about Toyotas. I have driven Toyotas for a long time, and they have been reliable. They've looked good. They've felt good. I have never felt bad driving a Toyota. Even my 2007 Highlander, which I am officially selling this week. It's a little sad.
Are you private selling?
Yeah.
Just selling it to somebody?
Just selling. I'm putting it on the market.
It's so incredible that you can sell a car that's a 2007 with what,
250,000 miles.
And people are like, yeah, I know that car has still got such a good life left in it. That's how insane Toyota is.
Because it's a Toyota. My father-in-law's Toyota got upwards of 350,000 miles on it before he finally, put it to rest. So yeah, Toyotas will last as long as you take care of them, and so many different choices as well, so many things to choose from, and especially as we get closer to winter. Got to make sure you get into a Toyota. Toyotas will take care of you in the winter if you take care of them. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Also want to give some love to our friends over at Game Time, because if you are heading out to, maybe the Broncos game tonight, after you go to the tailgate at DNVR, you got to use the Game Time app to get those tickets. And I know they're going fast because everyone wants to go watch the Broncos for Monday Night Football. It is a must-win for the Broncos tonight, and the Game Time app is going to make it happen for you. The Game Time app has so many awesome features. You get that app on your phone. They've got zone deals, 360-degree panoramic seat views. You've got the lowest price guarantee. And as you get closer to kickoff, if there are still tickets available, the Game Time app makes it cheaper to get those tickets so that you get the tickets that you want for the price that you can afford, and you can watch the Broncos go out there and hopefully get it done here tonight on Monday Night Football. It's going to be an incredible time. And as we get closer and closer to Av season, Nugget season, got to use that Game Time app and take care of all of your ticket purchasing needs. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off. Tap Ticket Go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Pete Alonso. The first big free agent discussion of the offseason, I'm sure will not be the last. Spencer, you put out a tweet, and you were getting some love for it on the Twitter world.
No, everyone hated. You would think that people would want something fun around these parts.
You would think.
They don't.
But I'm. You know where I stand on this. I'll give you my take in just a moment, but I want to hear your thoughts. Why do you think Pete Alonso should be a Rocky in 2026?
So I'm going to entirely take out the labor dispute portion of this argument because that, I don't want to give you too much credit here, and I'm going to dig my heels in on this one because I do think he would be fun. The labor dispute changes my mind a little bit, where like you wouldn't want to necessarily spend this much on a guy, and then you never know what's going to happen in 2027 and beyond, and if you're going to have to like let him go, or you're going to maybe you have to spend that much on a guy if there's a salary floor. Then you're like, hey, we did a good thing, which would be shocking for the Rockies front office. But I think Pete, the fact that the Rockies, yes, warming Bernabel was fun for a couple weeks, and hopefully he can be your first baseman in the future. Yes. Blaine Crim was electric for the last few weeks of the season and could be a first baseman of the future. Like the fact that the Rockies have such a glaring need at first base, and really, if you go back and look at, post Helton era, their success at first base has never been a guy through their system. And you can say that a lot of positions, but we're focusing on first base right now. Their success at first base has been the Michael Kadires, who played a little right field, also played a little first base. They got Justin Morneau and revived his career. Daniel Murphy was not a success story here, but the first base position for the Rockies has been a constant revolving door that we thought Michael Toglia was going to shut, and he hasn't been able to shut it. So if you have a guy that could potentially hit 50 to 55 home runs as a Rocky, his glove is not great, but when has a Rockies first baseman's glove been great or even above average since Todd Helton left this team? It hasn't. So if you could add a guy like that, it would be a very Rockies move from the standpoint of that's a ticket seller right there. I can almost guarantee you that if they ponied up the money to sign Pete Alonso, they would have 20 to 30% of the fan base that's like half in, half out right now back in, or at least like excited. Because I know that's what Chris Bryant did, and yeah, it's been one of the most gigantic fails of all time in Rockies history, maybe the worst. But signing Pete Alonso would sell some tickets. He would hit a ton of home runs, and it'd be a lot of fun. Mark Reynolds, great pull there, Luke. It would be a lot of fun for the Rockies as an organization to have an established veteran player, because they don't have a single established veteran starter on this team right now. Whether you're looking at the starting rotation, whether you're looking at maybe the bullpen we can take out, Herget's kind of that guy. But literally look through, and I'm talking legit vet. Like, yes, Hunter Goodman's great, and we hope that he doesn't Nolan Jones and Brenton Doyle the next season and become a guy that we thought was going to be a banger in the future and ends up having a really down year after a jump in the season. But the Rockies don't really truly have a veteran. We talked about needing a banger instead of a hitter last pod. They don't have that guy. And Pete Alonso could be that guy. And that's not, if it's an outfielder, I'm like, okay, we've got plenty of, no room in the outfield. You already got to make a ton of decisions on the Moniacs, the Freemans. Do you play Yanquiel Fernandez more? Do you let Beck start again? Do you keep Doyle in center field? Like, this isn't totally out of, other than the money portion of it and them actually paying him what he's worth or what he's going to get on the free agent market. This isn't an out of left field move for the Rockies to be able to make, I don't think.
Okay. I like the angles you're taking with this. I understand, yes, he would sell tickets. I understand that he would be a good veteran, that the young players could be around and could see and could learn from. But here's the way I look at it. The Rockies are years away from being competitive. And Pete Alonso is projected to sign a long-term contract upwards of $175 to $200 million. And you also have to take into consideration he wants to go to a place that's going to be a competitor. That's going to be a competitor. So if you are going to sign Pete Alonso, you're probably going to have to be on the higher end of that. The Rockies probably wouldn't be able to get Pete Alonso for the 175 that he's projected to sign for. They'd probably have to get him for the $200 million. So you would be signing basically another Chris Bryant contract and more for Pete Alonso, who's 30 years old, which is fine. I mean, 30 years old does not by any means mean that he's done. But you'd be signing him to another long-term contract in a situation in which you're not going to be in the postseason. Everything around Pete Alonso, let's just say he signed with the Rockies, everything around him is in shambles. The Rockies team organizationally is a 119 loss team. You have no pitching. You have no hitting. Your defense kind of sucks at this point. You've got 2, maybe 3 guys probably that are worth bringing back with stable set, roles in 2026 in Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, and Hunter Goodman. Everyone else is up in the air.
The middle of your field is dialed.
Yeah. And everyone
Other than
else
the
is,
pitching mound.
Sure. But everyone else, there's no one set in stone. And so I just think it would be a waste. Sure, Pete Alonso would be fun. And I would desperately love to see a fun baseball player, a good baseball player playing at Coors Field. But I just think it would be a waste of $200+ million to go and entice Pete Alonso to really take the stain to his career by coming to Colorado when Colorado's at their lowest point we've ever been, and live out his remaining 7+ years of his career in Colorado, making $200+ million. And in all likelihood, the Rockies aren't going anywhere to the postseason in the next at least 2 to 3 years.
No, and it's not realistic. Like I am putting on a little bit of a show here in terms of the fact that he fits and he plays a position that you desperately need a major league player at, and the fact that he would love to hit here. And I think you wouldn't need to revive his career by any means, but his career would at 30, when that decline starts to happen, if he gets a Coors Field bump, it could basically either keep him plateauing where he's at and one of the leaders in home runs every single year, or even he could hit even more. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. The money would obviously have to be there, which is zero chance. And I think the fact that he basically was one of the most insane interviews of all time, by the way. Right after game 162, you were the best team in baseball in June. You don't make the playoffs. Your owner spends an unbelievable amount of money to try to get your team to the playoffs. You can't even get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the Cincinnati freaking Reds are in the playoffs. And they ask you basically what you're doing, and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I'm not being completely realistic. Do I think the Rockies should try to sign him? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? No, because even if the Rockies put up an insane amount of money, he thinks his career could flourish here, which it could. He doesn't want to go to a non-winner. Yeah. That's the reason for leaving the Mets. The Mets can probably pay him exactly what he wants.
Sure.
But he wants to win some baseball games, and I don't blame him, because the Mets and the Rockies are in the same boat right now. It's crazy to say, but hear me out. They both missed the playoffs. But the Mets are literally throwing money at throwing suites and everything at Juan Soto's and the Alonsos and everything they can get. And they're sitting here on Monday, September 29th, in the same exact position the Rockies are in and not playing playoff baseball. So it's got to be maddening for those guys where they're getting the money and they're on a team where they see that the front office and the ownership is clearly devoted to trying to make a winner, and it still can't happen.
Yeah. No, I get it. And the whole Pete Alonso thing is interesting because theoretically you would like to see a veteran of some sort, not named Chris Bryant, be a stable body in the clubhouse for guys to build around. But like Luke says, you won't be able to land an Alonso type player until he's in his Giambi years, because right now the Rockies are, any reasonable free agent recognizes the Rockies are a long way away from being competitive again. And they have organizational issues that they got to figure out that are very unstable right now. So why would you want to, sign with Colorado when we don't even know who our GM is going to be and who, what is the ownership going to do and what's the manager going to be? I mean, there's so many variables. The Rockies are a disaster right now. And so the only veteran that you can hope to sign are realistically the guys that are trying to actually save their careers. The Orlando Arcias, who was a World Series and former All-Star and all this kind of stuff. And hey, I'm going to come to Colorado to try and save my career. Mickey Moniak, the toss-aside first overall pick. The Jimmy Herget, same thing. Toss-aside kind of wacky reliever. But, all this free agent conversation is fine, and I get it. We're going to have plenty of that this offseason. But I just go back to how we started the show. I don't give a shit about any any free agent conversation until the Rockies figure out their front office. One way or the other, although I'm going to be pissed if it's, keep everything in place the way it is. But you have to come forward and say, this is the direction in which we're heading. And that was actually a point I didn't make, or I forgot to say when we were doing our open. On top of getting these announcements from what's going to happen with the front office, we need to hear from Dick Monfort. We need to hear, or a Monfort. Walker Monfort, fine. If we hear from Walker Monfort in Dick's place, whatever. We need to hear from ownership on the direction that this team is headed in. They owe that to the fans. We've seen Steve Cohen, the GM or the owner, of the New York Mets, immediately put out a statement on, first of all, apologizing, taking responsibility for the failures of the Mets this year, and vowing to be better. And whether that means anything or not is up to the fans, but he did it. He at least went out and said it, and we haven't heard anything from ownership since May 11th when Dick put out a statement after they fired Bud Black. So I don't really care that much about free agents, and I don't think that, to be honest, I don't think the team cares that much about free agents right now until you figure out what's going to happen with your front office. And speaking of managers, we got to pause real quick for our last break of the show, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the managerial situation and all of that. So let's pause for a quick moment and then continue this conversation. All right. You look like you were about to say something.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Regarding this kind of Pete Alonso free agent scenario that you're talking about. If the Rockies tomorrow said they're firing Bill Schmidt, or the Rockies have a new GM in place at the end of the week, does your view of, let's say Bill Schmidt stays and they sign Pete Alonso, or Bill Schmidt leaves and the new GM signs Pete Alonso, does your view of signing Pete Alonso, which, yes, I know it's a pipe dream, I know it's probably not going to happen, but we're playing a game here. Does your view of the signing of Pete Alonso from a different mind and a different front office signal a different potential change to the Rockies' overall idea of how to build their franchise?
That's a good question. I think it signifies an aggressiveness that we haven't seen. I still don't think I like it. I don't think I would like that move. Again, Pete Alonso doesn't fix the Rockies' problems. He just puts a quick little Band-Aid on it and makes it fun for the fans. But the Rockies have much deeper problems than just their first base slot or getting a big slugger to come in. The problems go beyond that. So I still wouldn't like the decision, but what it would show me is that whoever is the new GM, hopefully, or president of baseball operations, is coming in and they want to make a difference. They want to create change. And I'll use these guys as an example because I think they've done a good job, or this person in particular has done a good job of being aggressive, whether you agree or disagree with his decisions. Buster Posey got signed on as the president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants last year. And since then, the Giants have been one of the more aggressive teams in all of baseball. They made the biggest move this entire season by signing Rafael Devers in a blockbuster trade with the Boston Red Sox. Then they realized, you know what, we might not be competing for a playoffs. We're going to go sell at the deadline. We're going to try to flip over this roster and see if we can get as much value, which we've been begging the Rockies to do for years. The Giants went out and actually did it. And then, oh my God, we're actually maybe a playoff team. We're pretty good still. They went out and still, had a chance to be in the playoffs. It didn't happen. And the second this Monday started in the offseason, Buster Posey comes out and says, yep, we're moving on from Bob Melvin. We're taking a different direction. I look at Buster Posey and I say, that dude's committed to winning. That front office is committed to winning. They will not accept being a barely missed the playoff team. And I don't see that from the Colorado Rockies. The Colorado Rockies, from my vantage point, don't care. I haven't been given a reason to believe that they do. Now, Walker Monfort says that they do. Dick Monfort says that they do. Bill Schmidt says that they do. And good on them. That's the right thing to say. But you haven't given me a reason. You haven't shown me that you do care yet. So until you go out and show me that you care, that what we saw in 2025 and the last 5+ years is not acceptable, and you are going to change that, and you're going to invest in changing that, I can't defend them. I can't defend the front office. I can't defend ownership. So when Josh in the chat says we need new owners who want to win, You're right. You're 100% right, because from our vantage point, the ownership and front office doesn't care enough. And I haven't seen enough to be proven wrong on that.
Get me fired up.
Yeah, that's the way I end my 2025 season, because, man.
No, we have to get to the most embarrassing moments.
We do have to get to the most embarrassing moments. Bob Melvin, real quick, before we move on to the most embarrassing moments. Bob Melvin, if Warren Schaefer is not the manager of 2026, is Bob Melvin a candidate in your eyes? Is he? Should he be?
Yes. Anybody with they kind of flirted with the non-experiential guy. Obviously, you're not going to go hire an experienced guy mid-season with where the Rockies were at. I do think, Bud Black wasn't great, but I think that's where the Rockies need to go with the manager spot, is a guy that is experienced, managed a team before, maybe managed a winner before, and Bob Melvin, has a good track record of success. And even though your rant about Posey and firing him, and I actually kind of think that Bob Melvin got the short end of the stick there. Now, granted, he's gotten a 3-year runway, so over that time, you can say, hey, maybe this whole product wasn't good enough, but to be a seller at the deadline this year, yes, they got Devers, but then to sell at the deadline and then also fire your manager for not making the playoffs, definitely an aggressive move, and we'll see how it works out for the Giants. But I honestly think Bob Melvin got a little bit of the short end of the stick there, and I think that the Rockies would benefit from an older, more experienced manager that just I relate this a lot to John Fox being hired as the Broncos coach a couple of years ago. John Fox is probably never going to win you a Super Bowl, which he didn't. He got there and got embarrassed. But John Fox is the guy that's going to come in and clean up the shit that he can and do all of it in his power to get the best out of the players that he has. It's a perfect example of like Pete Carroll going to the Raiders this year.
Yeah.
Are the Raiders going to win a Super Bowl under Pete Carroll? No, but the Raiders have been so inept and made so many decisions and been just clowned on for their penalties and their stupid mistakes. You need an older dude that's done it before that can come clean the shit up. And that's what the Rockies need. They need that versus like taking the chance with another young manager that hasn't hasn't managed before and taking a chance that the team continues to be shit and he's not a good manager or never has been. And then you have to go through this cycle again in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you for the second time today. I don't think Bob Melvin would be a good fit. He, to me, feels like another Bud Black, an older guy who is a little more, conservative in how he approaches building a lineup. I've heard from Giants fans, I've heard from Padres fans about their frustrations with him managerially, and a lot of them were the same thing as the whole Bud Black situation. So I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you in theory that, yes, there might be a manager out there who is a longer-term manager who might have what it takes from a seasoned perspective to go out there and get the changes done that need to be done, or be present for the changes, bring the young energy or whatever that looks like. But Bob Melvin, I just don't know if he's got the juice. I mean, you gotta flip the table upside down here. I mean, the Rockies are the worst team in the history of baseball. I need something unique, new. If Warren Schaefer is that guy, I mean, he's a first-year head manager. He's a first-time manager. He's got energy. He's young. If that's the guy, then that's the guy. Bob Melvin just feels like another cycle of Bud Black to me.
Yeah, and to me, Bob Melvin is you're hiring a mediocre high ceiling, but a very, very high floor guy.
Sure.
When you hire a younger manager, is there a chance that it's his first time and he really gels with the players and gets the most out of them? They make some moves and they make the playoffs in 3 years with this guy kind of leading the way, and then it becomes like, we're talking on the show in 2030, and I was like, holy shit, the Rockies are good. Remember in 2025 when we didn't know where they'd go managerial-wise? That has a chance to have a way higher ceiling if you go that route. But to me, everything else is such a mess that you need some stability or at least some experience in that role in order to kind of bring them out of this valley. And maybe they plateau quicker with a guy like Bob Melvin, but they definitely have a better shot in my eyes of not being the worst team in baseball and becoming a team that maybe competes in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I actually really agree with Drew in the chat here. He says, in my opinion, they should keep Schaefer until they're like a 500 team. They can make a run to the playoffs and then have the right playoff experience. I agree with you because right now, I actually saw a lot of people commenting and saying this because I posted on the DNVR Rockies Twitter, hey, Rockies fans, do you think that Bob Melvin should be the next Rockies manager? And a lot of people were saying no. And a lot of people were also saying, who cares? The managerial spot doesn't really matter that much right now. What matters is the front office. What matters is the roster, all that kind of stuff. And so right now, for me, Warren Schaefer's done a good enough job to where I say he's not hurting the team. The players love him. He hasn't lost us any games, in huge ways. Maybe I disagreed with some of his decisions on pitching, Kyle Freeland situation, that kind of stuff. But he's done a good enough job, and he's cheap. He's inexpensive. You bring Bob Melvin in here, you got to pay him a little bit. You don't have to pay him a ton, but you got to pay him a little bit. And so I'm okay with them keeping an inexperienced young manager to just keep the vibes up in the clubhouse, keep with the guys. The guys love him, and go from there. So I'm sure there'll be plenty more managerial openings coming up here as this offseason goes on.
No, 100%. I have one point on this, though, and I truly believe that obviously Bud Black and Warren Schaefer are not the problem, and I think that's pretty universally accepted, right?
Totally.
But on the other hand of that, saying the manager doesn't matter, I think is a little bit of a lazy take with the Rockies right now. Not from you, but just from anybody that said that.
Sure.
Because everything fucking matters right now.
Yeah.
Everything matters with this team because if you have a manager that has been consistent and been good, been to the playoffs, then it's very obvious right now. But if you're still a 60 to 70 win, 50, 40 win, 40 to 60 win team with Bob Melvin for 3 years, we know it's the players, but then it's very clear that it's also the players. To me, you have to get something right at some point. And so a manager with some experience where his floor is X amount of wins with a good roster, then you know that your floor being lower than his theoretical managerial floor is obviously way lower because your roster is that bad. And maybe you find out what your roster is having a consistent manager that has experience and has been good.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you on that point in general. I just don't know if Mr. Bob Melvin is the guy to do it. But like I said, once we get more information on what the hell the Rockies are doing this offseason, then we can dive a little deeper into this topic. But we got to finish this show with the most embarrassing moments of 2025. We're actually, literally. We're actually not going to do. We normally on our Monday show we do our Circle of Trust. And we're going to save that for Friday's show.
Well, no one's in the Circle of Trust right now.
Well,
they're not playing.
No.
And the front office is not in the Circle of Trust, and none of the players are anymore. We have to wipe it.
Yeah, but
the Circle of Trust is empty.
But we got to do the final, full season Circle of Trust,
Fair.
the final 2025. Who made the season long cut? Not just because our Circle of Trust, if you followed this show, ebbed and flowed as the season went on. I mean, there were times when Tovar was firmly planted in the circle. We had Tully on the Circle of Trust for a moment in spring training.
We did.
So we need to do a final Circle of Trust to wrap up everything on Friday's show. So we'll save that for Friday. But most embarrassing moments of 2025. I've got a few, but I want to get your thoughts. Is there one specific memory, one specific game, one specific play that stands out to you as man, I hated being a Rockies fan in that moment?
I think it's on here, but it was really that rain out Dodgers scenario where you're Chase Dolander. We still don't know what he is. We don't to this day, but we're good start at home against the Dodgers. Yeah. You're wow, maybe this is his defining moment of his career where he really takes off, and then it's pouring and you get a fucking pop up and you drop it, and then the Dodgers win the game and you just are getting clowned on every national site there is, and it was just this just can't. And
it was bad luck, but when bad luck is paired with bad play throughout a season, it turns into look how bad the Rockies are. Yeah.
It was just not fun.
Yeah, that was tough. Cole says the time Mejia ran and jumped into his own first base, into warming Bertebell to catch the final out. That was cool, but also it was. Because it worked out, if that ball had been dropped, arguably the most embarrassing part of the season.
Yep.
Because I think that would have tied the game at that point. I mean, Mejia had guys on the bases with, I think, the tying run up. So it would have been really bad for the outcome of the game. That was a bad one. The most embarrassing moment to me, and there's, again, plenty. We've got some nominations in here that are good. But was Adael Amador throwing his glove at the ball. I was there in person watching it when it happened, and I know he said it was unintentional, that it just slipped. It was a little league play.
Yes.
It was a little league. It was an in the moment. The Rockies were getting smoked, and Amador, I think, just didn't think about it. He didn't even think about it. Like, I don't think he did it intentionally. I'm not sitting here saying that Amador's a clown of a player or whatever. Like, I think it was just his emotions in the moment taking over, and ball gets hit over his head, and he just chucks his glove, and then realizes, oh shit, that I shouldn't have done that. And the Rockies, like I said, they tried to cover that up real quick, but that was my most embarrassing moment. Real quick, just for those watching on television, we are heading into overtime for just a minute or two, so head over to thednvr.com to continue the conversation. Overtime coming up here. Yeah, that one was really rough. Jake Bird face planting. It was in our little video that we showed. Jake Bird face planting onto first base was another nomination of mine. That wasn't like a team embarrassment, but that was just like geez, dude, that looked. I mean, he full on scorpioned on first. Rockies lost 21-0 to the Padres. That's another one.
Yeah, them just getting bludgeoned 3 games in a row by the Blue Jays and having a non-pitcher pitch like 3 days in a row. That was a very low point, like middle of the season, right before the All-Star break, I want to say. And it was like there was a stretch there of 10 to 20 games where every starter you guaranteed were giving up at least 7 runs. Not even 3, not even 2 or 3.
In the first
7.
inning.
Yeah, it was like 7+ runs by the 5th inning. You're going to be down. There was a lot of moments and a lot of just little moments here or there that when you watch every game and you see how good teams are and good teams conduct their business on the field, you're like, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah.
You say it like 15 times.
Do you remember there was a game, and I'm not trying to like just shit on Michael Toglia here, but do you remember the Michael Toglia game where he had like 3 errors, like routine errors at first? It was it was at Coors Field. It was like, ground ball went between his legs. Then another ground ball, he fields it this time and like missed the throw down to second. And then later in the game, missed another routine play at first. It was like it was just one of those games. It happens to everyone. But that was another one where I'm like, and that was still when Big Mike was still kind of a thing. But he was starting to fall off a little bit. And, I spent all offseason hyping him up. And I was starting to get some of the hate from fans being like, oh, you were hyping up his defense, and look what he just did. 3 easy errors. That was a tough one. Yeah, 21-0 loss to the Padres was brutal. 18-0 loss to the Orioles. 20-1 to the Blue Jays. 15-1 to the Blue Jays. I was looking back at some of their game scores. I mean, I know they had a -424 run differential. Some of their game scores are unbelievable. I want to give such a huge shout out to Drew Goodman, Ryan Spilborghs, Jeff Hewson, Corey Sullivan. I mean, like the broadcasters, I don't know how they survived. 21-0, 18-0, 20-1, 15-1, 9-0, 11-2. Like, how do you watch a game like that? I mean, we watched it, but how do you call a game like that? That's insane.
Yeah, and just doing it over and over and over again. No days. Like, 2 shows a week. Yes, it's still tough, but we have multiple games of baseball to like kind of take in and take some time and do it the next day. They're in the moment just watching complete and utter embarrassment and having to somehow, they're paid by the Rockies, so you can't just sit there and destroy the team. You got to kind of spin it into a positive light and talk about dogs and talk about bark at the park and Shohei Ohtani's home runs or
something. Also,
home runs. Like
can't forget Jack and Jerry as well on the radio side. That's almost harder. Not almost. It is harder. You have to talk the entire time. So yeah, it was a tough season, guys. But we're wrapping things up. This is not the last show of our off season. We're going to keep going all the way through the off season. We'll have a couple shows through the postseason, and then in the off season, we'll probably go down to about 1 show a week. But actually, this week is a bit of a special week. We are making up for a missed show that we had earlier in the season, a couple weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago. We only had one show during a week, and so we're making up for that this week. We got 3 shows this week, which means Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, we'll be live here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. Wednesday, we're going to be doing a postseason pod. So we're going to be talking about Tuesday's wildcard games and getting you ready for all of the major playoff games that start up Wednesday, Thursday, and beyond. So we'll do a postseason pod Wednesday, and then Friday we'll wrap things up with our award show and more postseason talk. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This has been a grind of a season, and
tip of the cap to you guys, especially everybody in the chat, everybody that's the sickos that have tuned in all season long and hung with us, because you guys make it worth it. Like, me and Christian can talk about the Rockies to each other, and then we get off track or talk about something else. But you guys in the chat and being, the firing of Bud Black and the change to Warren Schaefer and all the youth movement towards the end of the year and the bad pitching and the bad hitting and the roller coaster of the season made it all much more worth it with you guys. So we appreciate that.
Yep. It's, if you're going to go through something tough, better to go through it with a bunch of like-minded people. Love you guys. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This isn't goodbye. Like I said, we're still doing more shows, but we just wanted to thank you guys for another successful season of Major League Baseball. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Talk a little postseason baseball. Maybe we can. It's going to be weird talking about good baseball.
Talking about good teams.
Yeah.
Look at this pitching matchup of 2 pitchers with ERAs under 6.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with ourselves?
It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. We're going to be doing some watch-alongs as well as the postseason gets going. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.